got bigger. I love it. Now, last couple of times, gallery, cool. Woo, look at you. It's been a minute.
It has. And like 11,000 views later.
Yeah,
Yes,
right?
11,000 views later.
Wow.
13.
Wow.
Sweet.
Let's get it.
Who knows what all it means, you know? But
Yeah.
I like to make the meaning I want to make of it. Right?
Period.
Yeah. So there is a Majesty. Do you go by Maj?
I do go by Maj, yeah.
Okay.
But I also go by Majesty, so both are great. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Majesty, who's in Durham, I just found out. Not Durham, Maine, but Durham, North Carolina.
Right.
And there is Graciella and Graciella. Do you go by anything shorter?
I used to go by Gracie, but Graciella is like the kind of next iteration of self. So yeah, Graciella.
Yes. Graciella. I always have to roll the R. Sorry, it's just a thing.
You're supposed to. A lot of people don't, but like you're supposed to.
I'm gonna start rolling it.
And you're in Philly right now, right?
In Philly.
Cool. In Philly. Though you're a New England person, aren't you?
I
Or
am.
not really?
I'm Massachusetts, born and raised, but been in Philly for about 6 years.
Where in Massachusetts?
I'm from Amherst.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I lived in Deerfield. I went to school in Deerfield, not at Deerfield, but school was there.
But Deerfield is cute. I've been there. So.
And then Kenny are you in Philly right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. Kenny, cinematographer, and do you go by anything shorter, or do you do Kenny?
Yeah, Kenny is the short one. Kenneth is the full one.
Okay, Kenneth and Kenny. And then Benson, who I know also goes by Ben. And are you in Woodstock right now?
I'm in Woodstock, yep.
Yeah, I'm in Woodstock. And I'm Niyonu, and I am right now in Willingboro, New Jersey. I live outside of Philadelphia. And just excited to see your faces. I want time with each of you individually, but I'm glad we're here as a group. So yeah, we did this Webstruck thing together. And my vision for our time together would be that we would just organically kind of ask each other some questions, just curiosity, where it lies, and see how it rolls. I have a question for everybody, but does anybody want to jump in and start us off?
I mean, I guess I'm curious to know, because I feel like I was one of the last people brought in. So I know there was like a lot of planning, and obviously the music and the visuals and the dancing that was kind of got scheduled and produced before I got contacted. So I guess, how did it start? Whose idea was it? How did everybody get pulled in?
Well,
I'll start and then go in the order, maybe the order that we entered. I would say, and it's funny because I was reading the journal entry from, I don't know, like 15 years ago, when I literally was on the phone with a guy that I was seeing at the time. And he was kind of trying to weasel around some stuff. And I was like, you know what? This is really like over. This is over. And I hung up the phone and I literally said, "You got yourself stuck." You got yourself stuck. I can see the web now. You got yourself stuck. So anyway, I was reading that and literally just kind of sat down and wrote those lyrics. So that was one conception point. And I think maybe Benson entered next. Many years later.
I mean, I entered when there was a melody. And in fact, this song had been bouncing around a little bit, where at first we were talking about laying it over one of my tracks that develops organically. So you were trying a couple of different things, and I don't remember how we moved to, okay, sing the song for me, let me record it, let me have the time I need to do the instruments, because I don't read or write, so it's not like you could give me the music to study or I could sit down at my piano. It's all me and my Roland 307 doing a loop, old school programming where the one keeps coming around, is you're not looking at a visual of anything. And yeah, I thought that it needed, I wanted it to be musical, but I wanted it to be very percussive, because we had talked about the potential for it becoming involved in dance, although I don't know if we knew how it would develop. But yeah, I wanted it, but I also wanted it to have an edge, because more so than almost any song I know of yours, but especially on Spirit Fuel, it had an edge, and I not only didn't want to sand over the edge, I wanted to give it a little bit of fury or something like that. Maybe that's not the right word, but I wanted to match the intensity of what I thought was the lyrics and the melody, and almost create an environment in which one would be having those thoughts. You know, sonically, I wanted it to be the type of music that would anticipate, that would marry with the substance. Yeah, I wanted it to sound like inside your head a little bit.
Yeah. And Benson gave also a dance version of the song that's just instrumental, which I actually have never sent to Graciella, but so that's for the live performance. I'm trying to get y'all live. So then Graciella entered.
Yeah, I entered. So I actually worked with Mama Niyonu a year prior to doing this project. I was in another dance video with her. And we bonded because we were outside in, was it January? It was January or February. We were outside for this video shoot for over like 12 hours in the snow, outside in the wind. So we got very close very fast. And then, you know, last January or so, she called me and kind of presented this idea. But what I loved about it was that she was like, here is the song, tell me your thoughts in a month, you know, and like really let me just listen to it and explore it and present a few ideas. And I think we started to really process together, what does it mean to get unstuck? Was it like, what are we trying to get unstuck from? And I think like a few concepts started to present themselves that were like, oh, like we can actually put all these together, and it creates like a natural entanglement. So that was really just like nice to sit in, especially because I think it was at a time in my life where I was actively working on getting unstuck myself. So it felt very healing to do this project. And I kind of brought in Majesty and Kenny together. Majesty actually was the one who suggested Kenny to me, so I will pass it to Majesty.
Yeah. I think we were having drinks or something one night. And we were discussing, I think, the ways that we were trying to get unstuck in our lives. And it started to kind of come together from there. And yeah, the invitation presented itself from there. Yeah, I think, I was also working on a project at the time, a solo project, and Graciella was a part of that, as a sort of like feedback and like share and exchange person. And inside of that work, I was also dealing with some stuckness, some webbing, some tethering as like a movement principle. And so I think as we were talking about all of those different kinds of ideas, the web kept webbing. Yeah. And so I feel like that's how I kind of got like pulled in. And yeah, it just really kind of made sense. It like allowed me to like explore movement principles that I was already kind of working with in a different kind of context, which opened up the thing a little bit for me, a lot actually for me. And also helped me, I think, to like work through some of that like personal, spiritual stuckness as a feeling. Yeah, and then knowing that we needed someone to be behind the camera, I had to pull in Kenny, who was like the best person I know for camera work. So Kenny came in.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how it happened. Maybe Majesty texted me and gave me a heads up that I might be getting an email soon from Graciella. I think that's how it started. And then I got the email. We had like, I think, a phone call or a Zoom meeting to go over just a general like storyboard and the idea and the concept. And just from the first time, like within the first 10 minutes, I knew like this project was like something I wanted to be part of, and the energy of, at this point, I knew Majesty was going to be in it. I haven't met Niyonu yet. And first time meeting Graciella, and just the energy that like we had on that first call, I was like, okay, this is going to be a fun project, creative project, one that we can try new things. And it was very organized and well produced. And, you all came with everything already intact, every, piece of detail, the studio space we're going to get, the props and the idea and the choreography. So it was very relieving to jump into a project having all that already figured out. Because sometimes it can kind of be a process to help develop something, which is not a problem, but it was just refreshing to kind of have that burden lifted and just be able to be the creative part and help produce it and visually and things like that. So yeah, and then we ended up shooting it. It was fun. It was creative. We kind of, me and Graciela did like a test run in the space, which really helped kind of see the like layouts, visualize and plan. And we got some test shots that we just used to like edit some samples, and a lot of back and forth like creatively with that test run. And I think that really like put us over the top in preparation for the shoot. And I think that just made the shoot go really well.
Kenny, I have to say, like, working with you was so beautiful, and something I appreciate about you so much is you like when we got into the space together, you made it very clear, like, I'm not here to like take over the shoot. I'm here to like help you foster ideas. So like really thank you for just stepping in, for lending your expertise, for looking at me in moments where like, Graciella, like, slow down, and just like helping me flesh them out. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. I'm just so curious because I mean, I really laid just felt like I laid myself in your arms, Graciella. I mean, we talked on the phone about hair being involved. That was maybe a porch, you know, like there were some things we talked about, but and there was a long gap of not talking at all. I don't know how long it was. And then I was like, maybe this is not really gonna happen. And the next time I talked to you, you're like, oh no, I'm still in. I'm here. I can send you a storyboard and with some of the ideas. But literally just taking your direction on that day, from when you had us gather in a circle and share a little bit about ourselves in this like way that took us inward and connected both to spirit and body. And then just taking your direct, like, I'm like, what is Majesty doing with the ropes? I have no idea what's going on right now. So I would love to hear a little bit more about like how the concept and how it blossomed. And I'm sure even in the editing process. Yeah.
I am not gonna lie, those months of quiet were they were honestly me like listening to the song on repeat over and over and over again until I was almost stuck in the song. But really trying to approach the song like, every time I heard it, like trying to hear it in a different way. So whether I was trying to hook into a rhythm, hook into a concept, and I think that shows in the like the video overall, because there are a lot of just different ideas being put in that you can get either stuck in or unstuck from. So I think that was part of it. I think with the rope, specifically, like that kind of tied in some of the stuff that we talked about originally with hair. I think I looked into buying how much hair we would need, and I was like, hair is expensive. So I was like, let's just slow down. But the rope itself, I've worked with rope before, and it has a lot of meaning and context in it. I think Majesty has also worked with rope before. In their last work, rope was present. Or like the cord and wire was present. So I think for me, the rope had, a pedestrian feel to it. I think there's also specifically the context of like, clothesline into noose. For me, throughout this process, I wanted to also reflect of like, we as Black people are constantly having to navigate daily, both like macro and microaggressions, and having to constantly think about it, constantly put it into the body. And so for me, especially that moment is just a moment to reflect on like all the shit that we're constantly processing, but we're still expected to show up. We're still expected to function. And how, especially when you follow the line and you see Majesty at the end, it kind of is a moment really representing this like numbness, this like I'm stuck in this numbness. So I think for me, once that element came in, it was like, okay, how can we talk about, a song that's clearly about a mix of like, yes, this is a breakup, but it's more than that. There are a lot of like adding factors that led us to this moment of stuckness. So I think that was what was in my head kind of throughout the process, just like things like that.
I can jump in a little bit. There's something so interesting about the concept of like the love song or the breakup song, where I feel like so often it's so applicable to like all of the ways that we relate to things in our lives, including like, society and country and nation and community and all those things too. And so, yeah, like when Graciela and I were talking about the themes movement wise for the work, for the video, there was a bit of a relationship to what I had just done, which was dealing with like this microphone cord as like a tether to another world, which had to do with like ancestry and spirituality and crossing and being in betweens, and navigating whether or not I am sort of like wrapped in something that I'm trying to get out of, or if it's a thread that I'm trying to ride, or if it's something I'm trying to follow to get, you know, to use a tool to use to pull me in another direction. And so I was trying to think about that even more directly in the video, when I was kind of doing more of that sort of like improvisational stuff with the rope. Yeah, to really be in the sort of like, is tenuous the word? Tenuous connection with this material, this tool that, yeah, represents so much what it means to be in relationship, or what it could mean to be in relationship.
I think to jump back in, I also, as you were talking, Majesty, I just remembered this thought. At one point, I think I also thought of rope as like umbilical cord, and how, you know, some of what's also going on in the video is like not only is this breakup happening, but you're also, in a way, it's a song about like breaking up with yourself. You know, it's a song about like, okay, yes, I'm breaking up with somebody, but I'm also breaking up with myself because I want to become a new iteration of myself. And so the
breaking up with the part of yourself that would be in love with this person, yeah.
Or not even that would be in love with that person, because I think something I also wanted to portray in the video was that like whatever the relationship was, it was a sweet love. You know, it was not like this like, you know, aggressive fighting in your face love. It was a sweet love. So I think that's a realness too, of like you can have sweet love and still recognize like there are parts of myself that I still need to become. There are parts of myself that I am feeling stuck in this moment with. And so I, you know, need to do that work of like untangling, of detangling, of getting unstuck. And so I think with the rope also as umbilical cord, the rope as tethering, the rope as, you know, all functioning as all these things, it then really is like, what is it to have to like sever the cord? What is it to have to like kill that part of you so that you can then go through this metamorphosis of the next iteration?
I gotta say, I'm blown away by how many of these themes made their way straight to me. I mean, I went from having no visual representation for the song and hearing a little bit about it from Niyonu to watching, I guess, one of the first cuts of the video. It's a slightly different video now, but I almost haven't heard anybody bring anything up that I didn't feel very viscerally, very immediately, and there's certain types of subtlety that really fly by me, yeah, I was really blown away by how much was packed into the video, but also some of the things that you're talking about, Graciella, like that the rope has different meanings, and depending on how it was shot or how the person was interacting with it, that I got all of those, that the rope established its own definition in the video, then flipped its own definition in the video. And there were times where I felt like the cord was a connection, was a thread, like you were saying, Majesty, that you're following. And then other times where it's exactly what you're talking about, Graciella, of like the danger that is hidden to white people, that is the world in which whether you're the housekeeper or the president, tiptoeing through, and sometimes outsiders can't even tell the dangers that you're avoiding. I know I've had that experience many times of realizing that I was with a Black friend who was being really poised for some reason. And minutes, hours, days later, I said, right, that's yet another thing that's being balanced. That's yet another thing where there's only danger to one group of people in this room. And the video really moved me. And I gotta say, so much of it came through, and so many things could have been overdone. That was the very first takeaway that I had, is there were so many things that you could have hit me in the face with, whether it was being communicated with the shot, with the movement, with the set. I never felt like, okay, I get it. It felt like listening to a subtle story. It felt like listening to music that you have to turn off your ADHD brain to really take in, or one has to, myself. I just really want to salute how subtly but effectively a lot of these things were communicated. Really, really amazing.
I appreciate that. And I think I also want to just like call into the space that I think this was a conversation I had with multiple people throughout the process and as we were building to the actual shoot day. But we were very intentional that we wanted it to be a Black space. We were very intentional that we wanted it to be a space that, like, you know, as we were processing throughout the day, whatever our care needs were, it was a space that like we could feel safe in and not have to have that moment like you're talking about of, you know, but let me go into politeness politics because there are white bodies present. And I think that was a transparent moment with Kenny and me, because, you know, he was very honest about the fact, like, I can bring crew members, but just, you know, like they are two white people, like, are we cool with that? And so I think there was just a nice transparency there even. And I think, you know, crew members who did come in, they were very aware of what it was. You know, they were very aware. I think it was a moment for them, Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was a moment for them to check their privilege, to actually have to decide, like, when is it okay to be here? When is it not okay to be here? But I think there was also a reality that if whiteness was presenting, there was just like the go ahead of like, we're going to address that, you know, so it doesn't take up the space, so it doesn't detract from the actual like point and purpose of us being here together.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I really appreciated the process of transparency throughout this whole project, as far as like we were able to be honest with each other as creativity, you know, when it comes to our creativity and our ideas and our process. And, you know, during our rehearsal session with Graciella, you know, it was a lot of back and forth, and like no one had a right or wrong answer. It was just, okay, how can we like work around this problem? Because at first we had the problem with the blinds. It was too much light coming into the camera. And we were figuring out, all right, are we gonna like tape up some shades in, you know, in this corner of the room to make the light balance? And like, how are we gonna do that? Well, are we gonna buy bed sheets? Are we gonna like, how are we gonna tape it? Are we gonna thread it? Are we gonna, you know, all these different ideas.
And I were pressed. We were so pressed. We were like, what are we gonna do?
And for me, it was, I loved how we were able to just solve every problem with just putting our heads together and just sitting on it for a day or two. And what I really want to say is that I think this project was really fun for me, is that I feel like every step of the way, an artist touched this project, starting from the writing to the music to the producing and the beats and the dance and choreography and the filmmaking. And I think that such a different experience when everybody is an artist and everybody gets the creative like workflow and the collaboration that is involved, because I think a lot of times that's missing from either
Yeah.
corporate shoots or even other creative shoots that are like supposed to be creative, yet it's lacking some of that creative energy.
Yeah.
And this was just amazing. And I think so refreshing for me as a filmmaker. Just in art school, everything had a purpose. It was like, if you want to take the shot like pointing this way, the teacher was going to ask you, okay, like, what is the meaning of that? Why there? Like, what's the composition? What's the, all these artistic like themes that we like learn about in college, and then in the real world no one really cares. It's like, all right, as long as the shot looks cool, let's film it. Like, and a lot of the meaning behind it kind of gets lost. But the thing I really appreciated about this project is I felt like, and kind of Ben mentioned this, like how there was so much packed into each shot, and I was just stunned by how much like the double meaning was behind a lot of the compositions. Where I wasn't even thinking that deep, and then Graciella was like, "Oh, and that could be this, and this can." And I'm like, that makes so much sense, and like it just felt so good to like have other people get the creative, vision. And I think we pulled it off really well.
Yeah. And I just, this is the fourth music video that I've done, and the first was not that long ago. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, and it was such a new experience. But one of the things I really love about this was, when I said to Graciella, like, I want to use my body. Like, I don't want to just be like, because on all of the other ones, I'm like, I don't get to really move at all.
Specifically, you were like, I'm not trying to be someone's auntie.
Right, somebody's auntie or earth mother or a goddess. Like, I usually get plugged as one of those. And so and every time I watch the video, I'm like, I don't remember exactly what's coming up next, which is really, really interesting. But one of my favorite moments was this like electric sexuality thing when I was dancing with you, Majesty. It was like, I could really go. I kind of wish we were just alone right now. I could go with this for a while. It was just so nice, and it was just nice and juicy. And then when you and Graciella are like on the balcony there, and then there's just so much electricity. And I'm wondering what other people viewing it like are like, what's going through them when they are watching all of that. I know what's going through me as I'm watching it.
Like, you mean, is it hot? It's hot.
Kenny, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I remember it was like the end of the day, we were shooting the balcony scene. We did the moment of like the tether, and Kenny was like, that was good. Like, Kenny was like, that looked really good. We got the shot.
I vividly remember that. I do.
Yeah. I was surprised by how quickly you two were able to get in that zone. I was like, this is gonna take like 3 or 4 takes to kind of like get the energy right. And it was like first take, I was shocked. I was just like, okay, like, well, we're there. 0 to 100. So that
You
was
throw
great.
2 fire signs in the ring, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Yeah. But no, it was great. It was really great to tap into that with both of you. Dancing, bodies. I think also like really focusing in on the space being a Black space really like opened up for me what felt possible and available in my body. Yeah, I think the ways that we were like communicating with each other throughout the whole like shoot day felt intimate and grounded. And so it didn't feel like, weird or whatever to like open up in that kind of way and allow that kind of energy to manifest itself. And I had a great time. So.
Wow. Any other curiosities anyone has?
I'm curious about the editing process and yeah, how you all were making decisions about what to keep and where to place things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this one, Lexi, the one of the people I brought in, she did the bulk of the editing. And actually we got a really kind of close edit on the same day of the shoot. Like we had her just editing in the room, kind of like piecing together a storyboard and kind of what Niyonu and Graciella put together. And so we were able to just quickly get a glimpse of it that day. And it was just efficient. It was easy. It was, and then I know later on Graciella and Lexi had another meeting or two to kind of hone in and tighten like the edit. But really I was just kind of more like making sure everybody had what they need and everybody was like able to, you know, communicate with each other. But really that I have to give that one to Lexi and Graciella for kind of putting that together, if you want to speak on that.
Yeah, the editing was great. There was definitely a point in time where we were like, oh, the video is like 20 or 30 seconds over. So we had to like go and really fine tune. And I think that was cool because I think sometimes as dancers we get so in our ego of like, oh, this movement's beautiful, blah, that like we forget to edit. Like we're just like, look at me. So I see stop laughing at me. But I think it was a moment, it was a reminder of like what is driving the story, what is driving the video, what actually needs to be present to showcase like a big picture metamorphosis. Because I think that for me, that's what the song turned into. The song turned into showing Niyon's character as like changing, you know, like becoming this new person. So it was a mix of editing out, and it was a mix of also, I think what Lex and I went most back and forth on was at the end, like I really wanted layers. I wanted layers and layers of you know, my solo woven in over Niyonu. So it was like a clear, you know, like almost like internal emotions are getting unstuck. So that final shot is just like, bam, queen, go for it. So yeah, the editing process was fun. And I think I felt very supported by Kenny and Lexi throughout. So it was really cool to like test that skill.
Wow. Wow. Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
I'm curious, Graciella, would you, all the dancers sort of changed character. In other words, that the movements had some in character things. I'm wondering if you were, as you went, getting the character and the movement married, or if it was more like you had the map of the movement and then grafted the characters onto, because even your part, for me anyway, changed throughout the video. Was that like intuitive? Was that storyboarded? Like, I'm curious how that came together.
It was definitely character first, then movement. Even though I have my MFA in dance, I have my dance background. I've actually been involved in theater since I was like 3 or 4. So often storyboarding, playwriting, like all that stuff comes first within choreographic processes like this. So I would say the characters actually helped me to drive the choreography a lot. And I would say the characters that like were coming up for me based on either conversations with Niyonu of like what we wanted in the space, or just again, as I was, you know, continuing to listen to the song and trying to think about it in a different way, it was like, okay, we want a community element. We want, you know, a spiritual ancestral element. We wanted elements of like flashback of like, you know, maybe who this character used to be versus where they're going. So there was a mix, and I think even that tingling of like what characters are we now? You know, that tingling of like, am I a community member in this moment? Am I an ancestor in this moment? Am I a shadow self or ego in this moment? And I think where there was like some subtle distinctions was like both in movement quality, but also in costumes. There are specific costumes that go with specific, you know, characters. So that was kind of what was presenting, to have like a what's in the room or who's in the room, and acknowledging that like who is in the room is not necessarily always like a physical, visible human being. It can be other energies as well.
I have a
Yeah.
question. I know Niyonu, you were very open and flexible, and just with any idea we kind of just asked you to do, which was great. And it's cool to work with people and artists that kind of let the creativity sort of blossom and kind of let it organically change and evolve as it goes on. But as far as the music, even before the video, like the music with you and Ben, how was that process the same, or like how long did it take to kind of fine tune like the production side of it?
Mm, hmm hmm Yeah. I actually, it's interesting you asked that, because I think that um attracting, uh I'll just call it the right energies, um is probably one of my superpowers. Like, and so because of that, then like letting go and giving over is so possible, because I truly believe that um you know, when you've put out the vibration, or the frequency, and you feel that frequency match, and sometimes it's just for a project, sometimes it's for life, you know, that then that to me is like the main thing I'm looking for, and then I can let go. And even with Benson, when he said, well, just sing it into, I just sang it into my phone, sent him the recording, and then he was back in the room with his beat machine doing his thing, and I absolutely loved it, like right from the door, like once he played it for me. In fact, I sometimes listen to that original before it was produced in the studio, because it is so electric. It has it right there, just with the beat machine, before like bass and all that other stuff was added. So yeah, that's it for me. And then when Graciella said she was meeting with you, Kenny, I was like, "Oh, we're gonna use somebody you don't even. We haven't like what like." Like, okay. And she was like, no, no, no. I felt him. I feel like it's gonna be right. It's that same thing. It's like finding the right frequency, and then your energy, Kenny, in the space. I just gotta say, I mean, it could have been so different, but a combination of like your, what I would call a really sweet spirit, and this skillfulness together in the same person. And you know, just like, I can't wait for another opportunity to work with, well, Benson and I have been years together, but so I think that's
Decades.
decades. Yes, decades. So I would love to, lifetimes actually, more than decades. um, I'm just curious about, I would love to hear from each person, like something project or some dream that you're working on right now, just a little bit. Yeah.
Sorry, before we do that, I do want to shout out Manuel Quintana, who
Oh, yes.
who took my synth track and may have gotten me to play one or two things, but I'm not even sure he did. But yeah, a lot of the I would say a lot of the beef of the track came from either Manuel affecting what was already there or overlaying a couple of instruments onto the thing. But yeah, I
Yeah.
made the track. I had conviction in it. You had signed off on it, Niyonu, and I brought it to Beat Studio, represent, BEET, and Manuel, and yeah, he really
He did.
he took it from where it was and just made it more of itself, kind of like a good mastering engineer. Just brought out the character of it and made it more powerful and more formidable. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So what you got up next? Or want to have up next? How about Majesty? I know you just got back in the country. I should probably let you breathe a minute.
Oh, many breaths. I'm working on a few things, but I think actually the thing I'm most excited about is something it's just kind of like a personal project. And it's a zine that I'm putting together that is exploring Black, queer, erotic self-portraiture. So I've been taking some photos of myself. And I'm also inside of that zine doing some writing around ancestry and inheritance and naming. I am well known for all the different names that I give myself and changing my names often. But what I've been learning is that that's also common in my family, the naming tradition. So I'm bringing all of those things together into a short little publication that I will distribute sometime the end of this year, I think. So, yeah.
Ashe. How about Kenny?
Yeah, I would say there's always a bunch of things that going on that I'm trying to balance at any given point. But right now it's more trying to constantly keep getting better and improving. So buying more equipment, getting more tools to kind of help each shoot become better, more streamlined, and more efficient. But I'd say on the horizon within the next 6 months to a year, maybe, looking to connect with more people locally with different skill sets, and then trying to form more of a, because right now I have a video production company, but I'm looking to expand that to like sort of other design aspects, other like creative aspects. So it's kind of more services can be offered within, more than just video and editing. So that's just been fun, connecting with different people, seeing like what other people can bring to the table, what energies that I feel like are sustainable long term, and that we have a good, back and forth collaboration spirit with each other. So I actually have a meeting today to kind of kick that off. So that's exciting for me in the near future.
Yeah. Ashe. Woo. How about Beamon? Benson.
Yeah, so I have been working on my next album, as yet untitled. Well, secretly it is titled, but I try not to let them out of the bag anymore early, because people, you know what my record was going to be called in 2005? Avatar. Lost a lot of IP by trying to communicate with folks. So yeah, working on that, and really also trying to get back into you know, on a larger level, really trying to collaborate a whole lot more. The expression, it's about practical things, but it really resonates with me. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And the far isn't necessarily about success or remuneration. It's about making something that is spirit fuel, making something that is wholesome and practical, and most importantly, beautiful. And I put a lot of effort over my musical career into making sure that I could take every tight turn and making my vehicle smaller and smaller. And once I take trying to get paid off of all of this out of the equation, I'm a lot more interested in working with other people than I am getting some imaginary perfect distillation of the vision. So yeah, in a practical sense, I'm moving towards the new Ben Vita record, and in a general sense, I'm wanting to collaborate with more humans. It's dope.
Yay, yay. Cool, and grats.
I have a few pots on the burners. I have Majesty and I were talking about this. I actually, in that metaphor, I'm feeling like I need to buy a bigger stove because there are a few secret projects going on. I would say the thing I'm most excited about is I'm actually beginning in training of becoming a doula. So I'm starting that process. I'm starting that training. It's gonna be like very intensive training. So I will be deeply rooted in that for at least a year or two. I think besides that, I'm dipping my toes back into painting. I'm starting to simmer on some novels that I want to write. So I think I'm going to use this winter to just like hibernate and really ruminate on those things. Movement wise, it's been more like collaborating, yeah, like with people, collaborating with like process space. Like I don't know if I'm necessarily interested in like making something to then present it somewhere. But I have been just being like very intentional about like being in my body every day, about like moving every day. More recently trying to like call in ancestors into my movement practice and seeing just like who presents themselves and how that influences movement. So yeah, just like a few things on all these burners.
Wow, that's cool. Well, I hope there's some space in there for something else with Niyonu, because I just had a show.
Bigger stove.
Okay, yes, that's right. I'm for that bigger stove.
Got space for you. Always got space for you.
Yes. Well, it was funny, the show that just took place up in Connecticut. I wanted both Majesty and Graciella to be able to, and that didn't work out exactly. And I'm kind of glad, because I really want the Philly show to be, I want to raise myself into a deeper connection with my artist self. I needed to do this last show with all the joy and light that it brought. But there's a slowing down and tapping in that I didn't do in that show that I really want to bring forth. So much of my way that I want to communicate with the world, I feel it takes time to feel into and to be with. And so that's what I want to be up to in this next expression. I'm going to do a little living room concert around Kwanzaa, just small and intimate, and just finished recording a new single that I want to keep wrapping my arms around Webstruck and bringing it out. And I just made a commitment to myself a couple of days ago to only be on Instagram 2 days a week. That is huge for me because I've been, just tapping in a lot and trying to answer and respond, keep it. And my spirit is like, no, no, it's time to take 2 days, only 2 days, which will be huge. So I'm saying that out loud to you, my spiritual community for today. And I love you all. I love your faces. I love your spirits. Thank you for this.
Yeah, thank you for bringing us all together. This was fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Blessings on you. All your stuff. Blessings. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, bye.
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 Peace. Bye-bye.